invitada de esta noche es nada menos que la señora Mary Higgins Clark. How are you, Mary?
I am absolutely fine, thank you.
Very glad we are to have you here tonight.
Well, I'm delighted to be here.
La señora Mary Higgins Clark es la autora de novelas policiales norteamericanas, que es un gran boom en este momento en Estados Unidos, con sus libros normalmente encabeza las listas de bestsellers. Tengo entendido que lleva vendidos 20 millones de ejemplares de libros en todo el mundo y vino a la Argentina también para la Feria del Libro traída por MC para presentar su última novela. Le gusta la música, le gusta bailar. Loves music, loves to dance, isn't it?
It's the newest one, that's right.
The new one. You know what happens to me when I read your novels? The first thing I think is, how does she imagine those truculent, terrible things that happen there?
One of my sons said, my mother is the most nonviolent person I know, but she has a weird mind.
When I see your face, I can't imagine, you can't imagine those stories, really.
Well, what you do is you think about something and say, suppose and what if?
Yeah.
And then just let your mind go wild and see what happens.
And it goes.
And it goes.
How
yes.
do you part when you write a novel? What is the first situation you think?
Well, the first thing is...
A character or a situation?
No, you start with a storyline. That's the most important thing. For example, with Loves Music, Loves to Dance, I heard an FBI agent talk about serial killers.
Yes.
Specifically about one who had met all his victims through the personal ads.
I see.
And when he was talking about it, just walked through my head. Loves music, loves to dance. And I thought, that's my next book.
I got the idea. Why do you think the suspense novels have such a great success all over the world?
Well, I think what it is there's a sense of good versus evil, and good usually triumphs in them, and there's sort of a catharsis. And it's almost the same thing as when you were a kid and you went on the loop-de-loop or the scenic railway, you know,
yes.
And when I was a kid, I always went in the first car, which was the scariest one. And I knew my heart would start going like this before it even started.
Yes.
And you know when you go up and you see that drop coming, and I loved it. You know, you're screaming your head off, and then you torture your mother for more money for another ride.
Yes.
And I always was like that from the time so it was just in the bones, I think.
Yes. Are there any formulas for writing novels of suspense?
Well,
there are certain things that have to happen in the novel.
Well, you see, the first thing you have to do is to be a storyteller.
Yes, of course.
You must tell a story that people want to read. That's absolutely essential. And the other thing is you've got to hook people right at the very beginning.
There has to be a murder at the very beginning.
Not a murder, but something that pulls people in.
Yes.
You know, the joke in suspense writing is that the perfect first line is, a shot rang out in the night.
Mm. Right.
And I know I have, sometimes I will teach a class or whatever, and someone will read, and you hear beautiful, beautiful prose, but nothing happens.
Yes.
You've got to have someone, when he wheeled his bike out of the garage, he looked back and knew that if he returned, or when he returned, nothing would ever be the same.
Yeah.
Then you say, why? What's he up to?
Of course.
But if you just say he got on the bike and he rode into town and it was a nice day and he saw this, you don't keep going.
Not about suspense, but about bestsellers. Once Sidney Sheldon came here to the program, he said, I never finish a chapter and people can go to bed, leave the book and go to sleep.
That's right.
I always finish with a hook. So
absolutely necessary.
Yes.
I always try to do it, leave them hanging.
Mm-hmm.
And then what I do is pick up with someone else. You see, I usually do multiple viewpoint. So you leave someone hanging, and then you start in with someone else.
The next chapter.
But you must do that, because suspense ought to be like being on a fast train.
Yes.
You know, there are some books that you can read over the course of the summer.
Mm-hmm.
You can read a chapter and be perfectly content and pick it up.
Your books are to be read in a night.
Well, I am flattered when someone says, I read your darn book all night, and I was tired. And I said, well, then you got your money's worth.
Yes, of course. You have to go on. You can't go to sleep.
Well, if you can, then the writer has failed you.
Yes, that happens. When did you begin to write?
When I was 7.
Yes. All your life you knew you were going to be a writer, yeah?
Yes, you see, what happens the difference between people who have a talent for writing and people who become professionals is the professional has no choice. The professional writing chooses you. Mm-hmm. I'm not comfortable unless I'm scribbling away, you see? Whereas some people who have a real talent, they say, I will write a book as soon as.
Yes.
And I say, stop right there.
Yeah.
It will never happen.
Yeah, right now.
Right now. You make the time, you find the time.
I read some information I received in certain times of your life. You were very busy, you have a lot of children and all.
Yeah, I have 5 children.
5 children.
Mm-hmm.
So you woke up very early in the morning to write, from 5 to 7, for instance.
That's right, because I had been widowed and I had a full-time job. I left at 7:45 for the job.
Yes.
But between 5 and 7, I could write. And the typewriter was on the kitchen table, and I made a cup of coffee, and I was so happy then because I had 2 hours to work. And then I got the kids up and fed them, and then, rushed out into the car. But the manuscript begins to grow.
Yes, you could work with a schedule, because many writers say, I can't. I begin and I cannot stop, I have to go on.
Well, that's fine if you have the luxury of doing that.
Yes.
But if you don't have the luxury, then you stop. And it's not as though the book stops going in your head during the day.
I imagine, yes.
So the next morning when you go back, it's been simmering all day for you.
And you always wrote suspense?
Well, no, I wrote many short stories that were not suspense, but when I decided to try a book, I thought, what do I write about? And I looked at my bookshelves, and they were filled with suspense. It was my book of choice, when I wanted to relax.
Yeah.
And I was always trying to keep up with the author, to look for the clues,
Yes.
to see if I could outsmart,
So you
and
said, I
thought,
can do that.
Let's see if I can do it.
Yeah.
And the first book became a bestseller. So I had found my little notch,
Yeah.
or niche,
Your
I
way.
guess, in the world.
How long was that? How long ago?
The first book sold in 1974, and it came out in 75. And it was my first novel, and it just became a bestseller. And since then, it's been wonderful. Yes. As one of my sons said, why didn't this happen when I was 10?
Yes, of course. Another life. You write a book every year, as many bestsellers. You have a...
No, it used to be 3 years to write a book. The first couple took 3 years to write, because I still had a job. And then
now? Yes?
Not now, but I mean, for the first 3 books, I was still working.
Okay.
And then it was 2 years, and now my children are grown, I can give much more time to writing. So for the last few years, it's been a book a year.
A book a year.
Yeah,
you
I don't know whether
one
I'll
and you
keep
begin
that up.
the next one immediately.
I take 2 weeks, and I go to a spa, and I go shopping, and I have lunch with all the people I haven't had lunch with. And then I get restless, and I get itchy, and I start thinking, suppose, what if? And I say, oh, God, here we go again. And I make that cup of coffee and go in and sit down, and I start writing again.
How do you do in the States? Normally you sell the book before you write it. Is that true?
Well, only when I had written 5 or 6 books before I got that contract.
No, I imagine.
I
Not
don't
for
think they
beginners,
would
but
give
now.
a beginner, certainly I wouldn't have gotten a contract for 5 books on my, if they hadn't seen anything I had written.
For 5 books?
Yeah, the last contract was for 5 books. I have finished 4 of them now.
Ah, there's
I have
only
one more to
resting
go.
now.
Mm-hmm.
And then you sign for the next 5 years.
That's right. Well, for the next contract. I think
you-
I do 2 or 3 books.
You don't talk about the idea, nothing. You just say, I'll make 5 books in 5
Yeah.
years. You don't have the slightest idea about what. They
I
don't
was
ask
working
you.
on the first one at the time.
I see.
But the publishers wanted, you see, when you're a successful writer, it's a very happy problem. The other publishers start courting you,
Yes.
and your own publisher wants to tie you up as long as possible.
So
So
you
your
decide.
agent dances with all of them, you see, and you are seen lunching with the other publishers, which makes your current publisher very nervous.
So you're the winner of the situation. You
So
do
then
what want.
I've been very happy. I'm talking in the United States. Of course, I've had the same publisher here as well, but in the United States, Simon & Schuster is my publisher, and they've been very good to me.
I
Very
imagine.
good.
It's a
And
very
your
good-
editor is very important, and Michael Carter is my editor, and he's wonderful. He's like a guru for me.
What does he tell you? He changes chapters. He tells you this is too long.
Oh, yeah,
does he
well, for example, in Love's Music, I was going to have working in a bookstore and writing her first novel. And he said, I can't think of anything more boring than someone. He said, no. He said, make her glamorous. Let's see.
You He designed
Make her
jewelry.
a jewelry designer.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, that's good, Michael, that's fine.
So he himself
So-
said it was boring to work in
To
a
work in a bookstore and be writing your first novel. He said, I can't think of anything more boring.
And what happens if you say, no, I want her to do it?
Oh, if I were strong, but I was testing the waters about it, you know. I knew I wanted her to be the victim, to be the best friend of the other young woman. I knew what I wanted to do in the important ways, but I still hadn't found her, who she was. And when he said, make her glamorous, I said, yes, of course she's glamorous. She's not mousy. And he just has this, it's as though a doctor says, now the pain is in your left shoulder behind the third rib or whatever, you know? And Michael does that for me with books. In the new one that I just have out in the United States, I said it's going to be about a multiple personality, and the older sister quits her job as a prosecutor to defend her younger brother who's accused of murder. And he just looked at me and said, younger sister. I said, oh, yeah, okay.
Okay. It's fine. It's not a great use here to work with editors. That's why I wanted to ask you.
It's really wonderful. If
Yes,
you
I
have a
imagine.
good editor,
Yeah.
it's a very happy marriage.
Yeah.
And there are times when I stand up, you know, I say, no, I really want to do, and he says, well,
of course.
but
It's your book.
the only time that I let him make a suggestion that I took, and I'm sorry, is I have the crazy man sleeping under the girl's bed in Still Watch. And he said, put him in the closet. And I said, no. Michael, it's so scary. A woman thinks she's alone in the house, and this man is going like this, and she doesn't know why she's nervous. He said, the closet. And I finally said, Michael, don't you know, it is every woman's secret fear or hope that there is a man under her bed.
My God, yes, it's true.
I did put him in the closet, but someday I'll write something where he's under the bed.
Under the bed. Well, thank you very much for being here. We have to live.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very
It was
much,
lovely
and
to
good
be
luck
with
here
you.
in Argentina. Nos encontramos la semana que viene. Muchísimas gracias. Nos vamos corriendo, que nos están haciendo señas de allá. Hasta la semana que viene. Gracias. Y vayan a la Feria del Libro si no fueron todavía.